One of the many modifications made to my dad's 1968 Mustang over the years was the addition of LED sequential taillights. These new taillights were great overall. They provided an extra layer of safety, given how much brighter they were than the original incandescent light bulbs, and who doesn't love sequential taillights on a Mustang? Shortly after that, some new headlights were added, which featured an LED ring light, which helped this car stand out and look great. Now what wasn't so great was the old dim turn signal indicators on the hood. These lights weren't particularly bright, and on sunny days it was very easy to miss them when they were on. Not to mention, with the upgraded taillights and headlights, these lights started to feel out of place. So once we found out there's an LED turn signal upgrade for the hood, we wasted no time ordering them and getting them installed. After a few days of waiting, the new hood turn signal kit arrived in the mail from CJ Pony Parts. This kit included everything you needed to get these signals up and running, including the LED lights themselves, some foam tape, wire connectors, a warranty card, and of course, the instructions. The instructions weren't the best, and the pictures, well, let's just say I wouldn't describe them as high resolution. No matter though, with a grand total of 2 wires to connect, I think we could figure this out. Work would start by pulling out the housings the turn signals sit in. This is quite possibly one of the most pleasant jobs on the car, because once you open the hood, the lights and housings are just sitting there right in front of you. Using a 3/8 socket, the housings were unscrewed from the hood in a jiffy. The old plastic wrap around the wire was removed, then the light socket was twisted out of the housing. Heading over to the workbench, the lens was unscrewed from the housing, what little remained of the lens gasket was scraped off, then the lens and the housing were cleaned up. Doing a quick test fit with the new LED light, we found it was going to be a tight fit, but that it would indeed fit. Next up on the agenda was cutting up some of the foam tape and fitting it into the housing. The primary purpose of the foam tape is to prevent metal-on-metal contact between the housing and the solder joints on the circuit board to prevent any electrical shorts, but it also has the added benefit of helping the LED lights fit more securely in the housing. Prepping the electrical connections now, the old wire for the light socket was cut out from the car, then we cut off the plastic electrical connector from the LED light. While the electrical connectors this kit came with would have worked, there was a couple of reasons why we weren't going to use them. To best explain, let me show you how the connectors that came with this kit work. Using the clamp style connector that came in the bag, you would locate somewhere on the existing turn signal wire you would want to connect. Then using a pair of pliers, you would clamp the connector over the wire. This clamping action does a few things. It cuts the insulation on the old wire using the metal blades on the inside of the clamp, which also simultaneously create an electrical connection once the blades contact the copper wire. And after the clamp is closed, it reveals the female end of the connector. Then using the male end of the connector on the LED light, you simply slide the two together and voila, you've connected the LED light to the car. This is a neat way to connect the wires together and is pretty much plug and play, but there's 2 problems. First is that the electrical connection, while secure, is not waterproof. Ideally, for any electrical connections in the engine bay or anywhere else on the outside of the car, you should use weatherproof heat shrink connectors, which is exactly what we are going to use. The second problem is that, well, this connection looks rather unsightly. The instructions say to either tape off the old light socket so it doesn't short out, or just cut it off, which if you're going to be using this connector, I would just say cut off the old socket. There's no reason to leave it dangling around, cluttering up the engine bay. With that out of the way, our last step was putting the turn signal assembly back together, which is where we ran into a small problem. The old gasket had completely deteriorated, and while these gaskets are available, my dad unfortunately didn't end up buying one, so not wanting to wait for one to ship to us, I decided to pull out my handy dandy sheet of neoprene and cut out a new gasket. Using the housing as a template and a razor blade, I cut out the gasket, which, while not beautiful, it'll get the job done. The light was then shoved into the housing, the gasket was put on, then the lens was thrown on and screwed down. Just like that, we had the first turn signal housing rebuilt. The housing was screwed back down onto the hood, then we had to deal with the small matter of connecting the wires to the car. We first checked the positive lead with a test light just to verify everything was still working. Then the positive wire was connected using a weatherproof splice, which was crimped down with great success.
Slap!
After recrimping the wire back into place, the splice was heat shrinked using a heat gun, making this connection permanent. Next up was a negative wire, which can be connected anywhere really. We decided to connect it to the stud holding the wire clamp, and after taking a small section of the hood down the bare steel, the wire terminal was screwed down. Now that the wires were connected, it was time for the fun part, testing out the turn signal. In a surprising turn of events, it actually worked flawlessly on the first try. This signal was nice and bright, and the sequential action was a nice touch. Comparing it to the old turn signal, this is definitely a worthwhile upgrade. The last thing to do now was cover up all the exposed wires with a new braided wire wrap. The wire wrap was cut to size, then the wires were shoved into them. Some electrical tape was wrapped around the sleeve to keep it held together, then at long last, the left-hand side was done and looking good. With no time to waste, all these steps were repeated on the right-hand side. First removing the housing from the hood, removing the lens from the housing, clean all the old dust off everything, putting the foam tape in the housing, scraping off the old gasket, cutting out a new gasket, shoving a light into the housing, screwing the lens back together, installing the housing back onto the hood, connecting the wires to the car, and finally, putting on the wire wrap. The right side turn signal worked perfectly too, giving this hood some sweet new turn signals. With everything together, the time had come to take the car out and put these signals to the test. As expected, everything worked great, and even in the middle of the day, there was no problem seeing the new hood indicators. So with the job complete, it was time to enjoy being in a Mustang. And that's it for today's episode. All in all, this was a very easy kit to install. It only took about an hour to complete, even with cutting out the new gaskets. Thank you all so much for watching. Hope you all enjoyed the video, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye.